or 4. The second part, 4.
Well, mostly what I wanted to talk about was just like the San Clemente thing. We'll just, it's more of a kind of a, what are other folks? So,
No, 4 in the second part, other discussion topics.
oh,
I can't speak for them.
yeah, we'll just, that's what a question that they've asked. That's all. So,
Okay, you better answer it.
I will. All right, we'll start letting everybody in here.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everyone. It is 6:03. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes. We have a number of other folks coming in, but we'll be right there.
Hi, John.
Hello, Mr. Fellows. How are you today?
I'm fine. Had a busy day. We got a busy week.
It's always good. It's only Monday, too.
Yes. I enjoy busy.
Diane Lewis, you look like you're in the dark.
I am in the dark. The computer screen is lighting up the room.
There you go. Good stuff.
I don't know how to do a background. I'm still a dinosaur on the computer.
Not a worry. Thanks for attending today. Hello, Donna. Very nice to see you as well.
Hi.
And Miss Joni, good to see you as well. All right, we're going to start in about another 2 minutes or so. We'll just kind of give everybody a little bit of chance. We have quite a full room tonight.
See if I can get some light on.
May I ask how long you anticipate the meeting to be?
You know, we're scheduled for an hour and a half, depending on how many questions we have. We'll do that. So.
Okay. I'll probably have to.
Oh, sorry.
I'll probably have to leave before that.
Sounds great. But
Thank you.
yeah, whenever you need to,
Okay.
please do so. But like I said, this is more of a information about the homeless shelter and what's going on. So. Okay, we'll start in 1 more minute. So thank you everyone for your patience. I've seen some crazy names, but Galaxy S20 is quite an interesting name. So. Okay, well, first let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to say thank you everyone for being here. This is a special community meeting, and what we're going to be talking about today is the homeless shelter that is being put in on Kingsdale. It is something that's kind of created quite a few questions, a lot of online chatter. We have a lot of comments at City Council. This is the first time that I'm meeting about it. Councilwoman MD, as well as Councilman Horvath, will be joining us a little bit later today. We certainly had quite a few participants in their meetings, and they've been posting about it a bit more than I have. But anyway, what I wanted to do today is start to clear up some of the questions and some of the things, especially since it is going into District 4. It is funded for 6 months. We have a couple of other things that are going on. And since the pallets are actually going in as we speak, we've had a lot of questions online and a lot of other folks that have been wanting to come on in. So tonight's going to be kind of an open forum. I've got a number of questions that I've actually written down based on what I've seen over the I've been called, I've been texted, it's online, number of questions. I have my special guests tonight are Mike Webb. He is our city attorney for Redondo Beach and has been kind of a champion for this. And we also have then Christian Horvath. He's a city council member for District 3. And what we're going to do is we'll kind of follow through a couple of things. So what we'll do is we'll start to go through some of the questions that we have. If you get a chance down at the lower, if you look at the participants thing, if you could raise your hand if you have a question, I'll give you a call or I'll call on you when I see someone raise their question or their hand. Otherwise, we're going to kind of go through these questions that we're going to look at here and then kind of go from there. I do have some pictures of things. I've got a couple of other stuff. But we're here to answer any of your questions, and we're scheduled for about an hour and a half tonight. If it goes a little shorter or a little bit longer, that's great, but I just wanted to do that. First and foremost, I wanted to say, Christian, if you wanted to introduce yourself, I just introduced yourself, so go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Christian Horvath, City Council Member for District 3. Happy holidays to everyone.
Thanks. And Mike Webb, if you could just click on and introduce yourself as well, just so we know who you are. You are.
Hi, I'm Mike Webb. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm the city attorney for the city of Redondo Beach.
Terrific. So anyway, we're going to get started here, and I've got a couple other folks that are coming in, but what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to kind of start off here. So. Okay, so can everyone see that? All right, so this is my agenda for tonight, and we'll.
Mute, but
That's all right.
I think he's muted everyone.
Okay, so here are a couple of the questions that we're going to start with. And first, how did this project begin? What is Project Room Key, and how is it connected to Redondo Beach? What is Martin versus City of Boise, and why is it relevant here? What are other cities doing to address homelessness? What is Homelessness Court, and how does it connect with the shelter? How is this project being funded? How long would the shelters be located in Kingsdale? And a couple other questions that have come up as well, and that is, what is the 500-yard no camping ordinance? North Redondo Beach is getting an additional navigator. What is that? Why isn't the shelter going in South Redondo? And then what do police and fire think about the shelter?
All right, forget it. Okay.
And so we're going to kind of go through those. And if you do have other questions, again, go ahead and raise your hand, but let's get started. So we've been working on this since probably late August, early September. And it really started with a number of things. And what I'm clicking over to right now is an administrative report that was from October 20th, and it's got a nice little executive summary. Ton of information up on the redondo.org website about this whole project and all the things that are going on. It is important that everybody really look into some of this information. Okay, what we have here are a number of questions, a number of things, and based on when someone actually gets involved or hears about this project, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, why isn't anybody thinking? We have been thinking about this for quite some time. This has been as well thought out as we can be, and it's something that we're starting to look at as a city council. So on September 15th, what we did is we looked at a couple of things. It starts with a program called Project Room Key. Project Room Key, based on the COVID, is a county program that puts folks that are unhoused or homeless or experiencing homelessness and actually puts them in a hotel to keep them safe, to keep them off the streets, especially during the COVID lockdowns. As we started to approach the end of the year, Project Room Key started to lose its funding, and or these programs started to shut down. There were a couple down in kind of in the Wilmington area, the Signal Hill area, and we started to lose some funding. They started to move some of the folks there. Turns out that Redondo Beach had about 30 folks that were experiencing homelessness or unhoused, and they were in this program. We started to look at what's going to happen when this funding runs out. That's where we were brought this to the city council to say, hey, here's an opportunity for us to at least work with these 30 people who are been working with navigators, and we'll get together with about what is a navigator, but they're working with folks to get to permanent housing and starting to kind of work through the plan. As we started to do that, what you started to look at here was that we actually have, there's insufficient transitional housing to house these folks, and we're looking for ways to do that. So this program here became kind of a, how can we deal with these 30 folks? And that's kind of where the 15 pallet shelters came, and that's how we have a capacity of 30 people, just to start to look at how do we manage this. And that's really what we came from. Kristen, did you want to jump in there as well and add any to that? You are on mute.
Swear to God, 2020 is all about the unmute. It's absolutely crazy. John is starting to talk about Project Room Key, because I think it's important to kind of lay as a foundation for where we're at right now, right? Both with the COVID-19 crisis and also with our local homelessness crisis. City Attorney Webb and myself were at a South Bay City Council of Governments homeless task force meeting, which I chair, and he was there to present on a lot of our other strategies, including our homeless court and our enhanced response pilot project, which we can get into a little bit. While we were there to present on that, Pallet Shelters was also presenting. And usually what we do is at this regional body, we're getting together with all the other cities in the South Bay. And we're really talking about best practices. What is everybody doing? What's going on out there in the services world that is things that the cities haven't thought about or that we could take advantage of. And so we usually have either programs coming to us or services, or in this case, like I said, we share best practices, and that's what we were doing as a city of Redondo Beach. That particular day, Pallet Shelters was presenting. And since the city of Redondo Beach has, over the past 4 years, we have started to employ a whole variety of strategies to help our unhoused neighbors and to solve a problem that actually had come to us from the residents. You know, the city manager back in 2013 created a task force around homelessness because residents said we needed to address it. And so everything that has happened since then has been small baby steps in working with our faith-based community, our business community, all different aspects of Redondo Beach, and trying to figure out how do we address this. And the prime leaders behind that have been both our community services department and our Redondo Beach Police Department. Naturally, as we come up against new challenges, we look for new creative strategies, and that is how we came to be presenting about the Enhanced Response Pilot Project. Why John mentions Project Room Key is because at the beginning, towards the beginning of this pandemic, when we had the safer in place, the shelter in place order, we realized that clearly some individuals are at much higher risk for contacting COVID. And so this program was put into place at both the state and the county level. And we were able to move, as John said, somewhere between 30 and 50 individuals off of the streets that were at high risk and into Project Room Key. The problem was the funding for that was running out. And so City Attorney Webb and I saw an opportunity here to try to not lose all the progress that was made with those individuals, because they weren't just given a hotel room. They were given a hotel room and full wraparound services. And when I say wraparound services, that means they had individuals there to try to help them move along the path towards getting back into some type of permanent supportive housing, to help them figure out ways to get access to benefits they may have. If there were addiction or mental health issues, into services that would help them in those areas. So, so to now take people out of that situation and put them right back out on the street, you could potentially lose months of work that was helping move somebody towards a more positive and helpful future life. And so we brought this project, the idea of this, back to the council to have a discussion to see if there was any interest in us using it as yet another strategy to help us achieve what is really our ultimate goal, is getting individuals off the streets and individuals into some type of permanent supportive housing. And so sorry if that took a little long, but that kind of lays the foundation.
Well, what we're going to find is that this is a very complex issue, obviously, that there's no quick fix for really anything. I mean, this is not a one size fits all as well. So this is, we're trying this, and this, as Christian mentioned, this is a pilot program. We're going to try this to see if we can actually help and help these folks as they're moving from unhoused to hopefully housed. So let's kind of jump down to what I would call is question number 5, which was, what is the homeless court and how does it connect with the shelters? Okay, so kind of a real quick preface. There's the courthouse is over in Torrance. There is what's called homeless court, or a court that directly works with regards to with folks that are experiencing homelessness, and what Christian was talking about, which are they're going through some issues. They may have some addiction issues. They may have some mental illness issues. They may have some other issues with breaking the law or doing something like that, or they have some infractions. In this program, our prosecutors and the Redondo Beach prosecuting team have started to work with these folks to try to really get them through this process. And if they will accept help, move towards getting towards permanent housing, we can work with them to actually reduce or take off some of their infractions so that they can actually get into the housing. Mike Webb, if you could kind of just chime in real quick and tell us a little bit more about homeless court, that'd be great.
Sure, John. I'd go back a little bit with something that Christian mentioned, which is my office first got involved in this about 1.5 years ago. And Mayor Brand and Councilman Horvath came to me about a month before they passed our budget and asked if I could come up with a creative program to try and address the problem of homelessness in Redondo and its impact on public safety and quality of life. I met with Chief Kaufman and Councilman Horvath. We came up with a plan to address it, and we put it in place starting July 1st of 2019. We started with interviewing everyone willing to meet with us who had complained to the mayor or a city council member about the impact of homelessness on their life. And it's clearly growing throughout Southern California. And we met with them, and then we came up with a plan to try and address both the problem of homelessness and its impact on public safety. Chief Kaufman and I then met with the 4 churches that provide meal services to the homeless and suggested ways that they could make changes to reduce the impact on the community. They almost unanimously adopted those recommendations, and it was going well until the pandemic hit in March, and our transient related arrests were down. The complaints to the police use a more sophisticated polling service to find out what are the concerns in the community. And we had a reduction in the number of people who talked about homelessness being a major issue. Then March happens, COVID, and courts shut down largely. Trials are continued. And we were at risk of losing the progress that we had been making with people. And so, and this was supposed to be a one-year pilot program. For the second year, seeing some of the successes we had had, the South Bay Cities Council of Government, which represents 16 cities and parts of the county in the South Bay area, decided to fund it entirely for a second year as one of the few innovative programs in the South Bay.
Mike, I
Yeah.
have a quick question for you. So you mentioned that we're starting to see some progress. The folks down in South Redondo specifically, they really started to see that the police had different tools and different methods to be able to kind of help people move along. Some of the churches that were down there feeding, and they really seen some progress down there because of the homeless court?
Yeah, we have both, the Chief Kaufman has, and he's presented the stats to the council to show the objective measures, and just the responses that we heard and that council members had heard from the people who had complained, saw a distinct difference. So we didn't want to lose that. So in July, I approached the site supervising judge of Torrance Superior Court and said, well, one, it's not safe during a pandemic to have the individuals in court along with the justice system partners. And within 2 months, we were able to create the first and only so far outdoor court of any type in the county of LA. And that was a benefit because we were also able to provide additional mental health counseling and addiction counseling. We've got Clear Recovery Center, which works in the South Bay, and they were willing to donate up to $5,000 a month in free services with an option for us to purchase additional if needed using the grant funds from the South Bay COG. And one of the problems is the inefficiency of how this challenging problem is addressed. Everyone works in silos, and there isn't enough, even not just confined to the homeless population, there isn't enough mental health, treatment available. And so we brought it all together in one location, and it's working. I know Supervisor Hahn wants to bring it to other areas of the city. Sheriff Villanueva from law enforcement point of view said the same, as well as Mr. Garcia, the public defender of LA County, because it's the one situation in court where everyone's interests are aligned, in that if we can provide the services and make them available in a meaningful way to homeless individuals, the end goal for everybody, both the community and the homeless people experiencing homelessness, of getting off the street and getting permanently housed, is the same. So it seems to be working really well. Redondo has had a dedicated only to Redondo housing navigator for the past 3 years. The Daily Breeze referred to her as an angel. And they're not exaggerating much. She really, really works well. And she credits Homeless Court with making her more efficient. And so the reason it led into the pallet, or fits into the pallet shelter, is she alerted us to how inefficient it is in terms of getting someone who's accepting help but they're still living on the streets. It's not a very conducive activity to try and make all the appointments, and there's more temptation if they've had past addiction issues. And
Mike?
go ahead.
Let me jump in there real quick. So what you're saying and what you're pointing out is that homeless court is going on now once per month on a Wednesday. It's over where it's right across the street from City Hall in the annex building that's over there, correct?
Correct.
And when someone is experiencing issues through being unhoused and they can go there, and as you said, the court is really trying to work with them to either kind of expunge some of their records so that they are housable, so to speak. Is that part of what's going on there?
Yeah, our goal, what we found is that one of the big obstacles is homeless individuals are not housing ready, and that can be for a variety of reasons. They don't qualify for their Social Security or Medicard because they don't have a proof of ID, or they can't get the necessary proof of ID. They don't have a birth certificate. So it can be as simple as making certain they're working with a housing navigator to get a driver's license, and then making certain they get their Social Security card, making certain that if needed, mental health counseling is available right there. They don't have to make a promise to, travel some distance to meet with a counselor. They go right inside the police station where we make those services available to them. So it seems to be working well. And the ultimate goal, if we can reduce the number of homelessness, the number of people who are homeless, that makes both the community and the unhoused individual better off.
And I think, John, to answer the other part of your question there, Mike's right. Obstacles to getting people into housing can also be having a record, and that record can be for small infractions, so for them to, over the course of time, expunge those records, it gets that not only with the services and the things they may need to be able to get benefits that are afforded them, removing that from their record helps get them ready and eligible, if you will, to be able to be put into some type of permanent supportive housing.
Right. And before that, there's a problem with too many demands on legal aid. And so we were able to get the Tom Moore, the head deputy downtown in LA. He has a mobile van, and they send it over to homeless court. And they can, in addition to the ones that represent defendants charged with low-level crime, he has a team that can help them remove charges, which they would be eligible to have removed, but just don't follow through with the process. And so it's designed to make it as easy as we can, because anyone who's dealt with DMV or Social Security knows how challenging it is. Even before the pandemic hit, it's even more challenging now. And if you don't have a home, if you don't have a computer, it can be darn near impossible. So we're trying to get them housing ready. And
right.
we had great success with that.
So let's thank you very much for that. So we've got this homeless court that is able to help them once they kind of get into the program and work. Let's kind of flip over to what Martin versus the city of Boise is. Okay? And this is a law that came down through the Ninth Circuit that stated that you are not able to, or you are not allowed as a city or as an agency to stop someone from camping if you don't have a bed available for them. Okay, so if they're experiencing homelessness and they have a tent, or they're sleeping on the street or what have you, can't move them along or tell them that they can't be there unless you have a bed there. And this came down, and it's actually changed the way that cities have to administer or work with their homeless populations. And it's created quite an issue. So a number of cities have started to kind of look at how to work with this, and some success has been had. Some people talk about San Clemente, San Clemente has they put off an area where people could camp. One space over there, and they had about 15, 20 tents or even more. And they started to say, look, you can be here, but you have to go in this one area. So that's one way to do it. Others, so Venice has a homeless shelter that they were able to put together and that sort of thing. And a number of cities have actually done that. But this Martin versus City of Boise case really changed things. And Mike, would you like to chime in a little bit on that?
Well, it's not a particularly well-written decision. Came out in 2017. The final appeals came down late in 2019. The city of Redondo Beach was the first city to agree to join a group of cities and counties throughout California who joined an amicus brief on behalf of the city of Boise, talking about many of the consequences, because it was a sea change in how law enforcement could constitutionally deal with the situation. Supreme Court refused to hear it. I think it was October of 2019, and it has changed it. You mentioned San Clemente. San Clemente had to, they got sued 4 times. They won 1 lawsuit because of lack of standing, but they had to shut it down because of another lawsuit that said they violated CEQA and the California Coastal Act, and they don't have that ordinance in effect anymore.
Right. So that kind of gets us to why is it important to Redondo Beach, and why it's important to Redondo Beach is that without being able to move folks along, so to speak, or to kind of determine where folks that are experiencing homelessness or being unhoused, our police officers don't have that tool now because of this ordinance. So we had to come up with a way to say, hey, we would like to help move them along or find help or get them services, but what can we do from there? And the idea was that if we have a bed for them, this is one more step that we can go towards being able to move them along. So these folks that are experiencing that are unhoused or homeless, they're going to choose where they're going to be, and we wanted to kind of help. Now, the 15 shelters that we're putting in, the pallet shelters that we're going to see in just a second, that doesn't solve our problem, and it's not enough beds for us to make the case that we have a bed for them as we move them along, and the police officers do. But it's a step towards the right direction. Okay, and we're starting to look at that. And again, the temporary homeless shelters that we're putting in, it's a step towards being able to solve that problem, and it doesn't solve the problem as a whole. Okay, but we're kind of trying to solve 2 different things. First, these folks that Kristen mentioned about coming off of Project Rome Key, as well as some folks that are distinctly here for Redondo Beach or have a connection here. Those are the ones that are going to be here. These shelters aren't necessarily drop someone off from another neighboring city. These folks that are going to be in these shelters are our residents and our neighbors. They just are experiencing, they're unhoused or being homeless. And that's one of the issues. And again, we want to be compassionate with those in that. So Christian, when we talked about Boise, the Boise case, the police officers really, they wanted to be able to help, but this is kind of not a full help, but the shelters really do kind of take us one step. Can you help with that?
Well, I think the question you're asking is it a helpful strategy for what it is we're already doing?
Right. Yeah.
Well, yes. So I think Mike Webb already kind of touched on this, right? For our housing navigator through Harbor Interfaith, trying to interact with the, however many homeless people we have here in town, right? It's an inefficient system, right? I mean, I follow her on Facebook, and, she had a post the other day where she had 2 beds open up in downtown LA, and she had to find these 2 people that were eligible for it. And she had to have them there to that bed by noon. it took her 3 hours to find them that morning. And luckily, by the grace of God, right, she found them with just enough time and got there 5 minutes before they needed to check in, right? So the inefficiencies are just simply based on the fact that the unhoused individual, they may bed down in the same place every night, but that doesn't mean that's where they're going to be during the day. And if they don't have a cellular phone or some way for her to get in contact with them, she has to be out there looking for them. And so it's a process. It's a process for her, to help people get their license or access to their Social Security benefits or any benefits they may have. She's having to drive people to DMV or to Social Security office, whatnot. So this has the potential to create a much more effective process and efficiencies for not only her, but for any of the services that we already provide. And in this case, for officers that are engaged with the community, they will clearly know who is in that. Our officers, we have a team of individuals within the police department that specifically focus on homeless issues. They know everybody in our community that is unhoused. In this case, they would know exactly where those 15 individuals are. So yes, there's definitely many benefits across the system of the various different departments and agencies that are working with us to have at least 15 people in one place at one time. And I think it'll help us more effectively get them from that transitional housing out to some type of permanent supportive housing. We will see how it works out, but this is definitely a great start.
Yeah, so we had a question here from Margaret Willers, and her question is this going to help the evicted tenants in 2021? And I'll have to say this, and then I'd say, if someone's getting evicted in 2021 and they're experiencing homelessness or unhoused or what have you, I would hope that they have other options. If it comes down to it, this might be something that we can do. Since we are engaged with what I would call our homeless or our navigators and whatnot, there are some options for someone who's going to be experiencing that in the short term. I wouldn't say that this is a catch-all for someone who's going to be evicted in Redondo Beach, but an interesting question. Mike, Kristen, did you want to
well, I think the problem is ginormous. So here's a recent stat from the United Way. For every 222 people that the LA County is actually getting out of homelessness on a daily basis, another 244 are falling in. So, and that statistic is pre-COVID statistic, right? So this is challenging because could it help evicted tenants? Possibly, but the simple fact of the matter is there are too many people falling into homelessness on a daily basis for us to be able to do anything of substance with just 15 units, right? So we're, and for only a 6-month period. So we're going to do what we can, but I think what this should do is create a broader conversation, not just in Redondo Beach, but in every single one of our sister cities and the South Bay. Like, we all need to be kind of chipping in to figure out how to solve not only for the affordability crisis, but for the homelessness crisis. And COVID is not helping clearly right now, especially if some of those rules that are in place right now to avoid evictions don't get renewed. So,
yeah. Mike, did you have anything to add?
I would just say that they would have to be Redondo Beach residents who have been evicted, because this is designed right now before any evictions with people who have been homeless in Redondo and are working with our housing navigator to try and become housed.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So two questions here. So this doesn't solve the Boise issue. Even with these, tents still cannot be moved on. Is it disingenuous to join the two? So Bob Pinsler asked two questions. So Bob, would you like to?
So I will, well, okay, go ahead.
Actually, go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
So I would say, I answered the Boise question. It's not disingenuous because many people ask about, why can't the police arrest people for camping on public property? So that's just a reality. And there are exceptions to the Martin versus Boise rule. You can prohibit camping in certain locations, and you can ban camping during certain times. I think it is more defensible to be able, if you get sued, to be able to have those services while you're potentially having the police department take enforcement action. So, but that at every community meeting, that's the first thing where people say, well, we have an anti-camping law. Why don't the police enforce it? And as you mentioned, people join the conversation at different times. So, even though we just started talking about pallet shelter less than a week after homeless court, and we continued the discussion that we'd been having for a year and a quarter, and that the city had been having as a whole for 5 years, people join different times. So, it's not an immediate solution that the police would be able to enforce the ordinance. They will be able to enforce the newer laws that deal with time and location. But, you can't just arrest your way out of it. And so we're trying to, as part of a model pilot program on a regional basis, come up with ways that if each city adopted it or adopted what applies to their city, we can all make a big dent in the issue of homelessness.
May I join in?
I would just say it's germane to the conversation to add on to what Mike said, because if we don't do anything, it's still going to happen, right? And one of the things that we've been trying to work on as part of the Enhanced Response Pilot Project is to look for some type of bed situation. So in a situation where enforcement was absolutely necessary, that we would actually have a bed to offer. And we had a potential arrangement with someplace in Hawthorne that fell through, so we're trying to be creative and figure out ways to address the Boise issue. It may not be explicitly directly related, but all of these issues kind of intertwine and just force us into trying to come up with creative solutions or strategies for how do we help individuals on a daily basis.
Okay. So a question came in. It was rumored that the federal building, let's see here, the federal building, the FAA, is going to be used for homeless. Does that fit in this? First, I don't believe that is, I think that was just a rumor, or at least something that went through.
That's the building in Manhattan Beach at the corner of Aviation and Marine. And I think that was a rumor.
It's certainly not a part of this.
No, certainly not. Okay. Can you share how many people who participated in Project Room Key moved on to permanent supportive housing?
I don't have the recent numbers. It was more than 30 were in Project Room Key. I know that some have returned to the streets. Some were they were able to provide other locations that were that worked. But I don't know the total number. I know Lila Ramura has 6 to 7 people that she's thinking can be moved in once this shelter the very first day that the shelter opens.
I have a couple of folks that want to kind of start talking a little bit more about the pallet shelters and actually kind of see some things. Maybe what we're trying to do is kind of give a background for where we have been and where we're going to start to go. So let's maybe click over a little bit. First and foremost, let's talk about funding just real quickly, since it's a very important piece of this. I'm going to share a screen here real quick, and let's see. So what we have here are, in one of the reports here, what we're talking about here is we have about $708,000 to do. The section that I've actually highlighted here, that $708,000. Supervisor Hahn's district has about $409,000. We had about $300,000 that we put in. These are CDBG funds. These come from the federal government. What we're doing is these are specifically for CARES Act kind of things, and we decided that a portion of the monies that we're getting from them, we wanted to use towards this.
Can I update those numbers, John?
You may, please.
So the county is providing for all the one-time cost, the purchase of the pallet shelters, and the preparation of the site. So that was 100% paid by the county. It came with a deadline of getting it up and running by December 30th, and that deadline went into effect at the end of October, so we had to move it all up. The city's going to put in $185,000 from the CDBG funds because it's only funded. It's only set to be in place for 6 months. And so on tomorrow night's agenda, you'll see my office is located. We'll seek for authorization for up to 5 beds in Wilmington, which is within our service provider area, which is important. Not going outside of our spa, which is spa 8. That becomes legally important. But we have 1 or 2 beds available as of January 1st, and we think there are others up to 5 that will become available. So the council will get to decide whether or not to spend a remaining, I think it's about $30,000 if we get all 5 beds, and then $35,000 of it will go to pay for a housing navigator at the start of the year just for North Redondo. So there's the navigator we share with the 3 beach communities. There's the full-time navigator, Lila Ramura, and now there'll be a 6-month, as part of the pallet shelter project, there'll be a 6 months of, while the pallet shelter is up and running, with a navigator only for North Redondo. And I should say it's a maximum of 6 months because we wrote it, and it's the only way that it would be acceptable. It's a pilot program. The council can, after the first 30 days, shut it down by giving 10 days notice to the county. And that is a very short notice period because, we think with all the prevention that we've put into it to not have there be any negative impact on the community. In fact, have it be a win for the community because people who are currently living on our streets will be housed more humanely, but with wraparound services and 24/7 security, and have to be subject to a search and wanded as if you were going into a courtroom or Disneyland or something else, that this is safer. And but if we see any unexpected or unwelcome changes, then the council fully retains the discretion to terminate it after the first 30 days.
Thank you. All right. So let's take a look at a couple of shelters here real quick. So I'm going to put up some pictures of the shelter, the pallet. Okay. So this is a little flyer. Pallets is put out. And basically, it's a social purpose committee and on a mission to build equal opportunity access to housing and employment. That's kind of how they present themselves. The problem, 1.6 billion people lack access to adequate shelter across the globe, with more than 500,000 in America alone. Okay. The problem, elected officials are under pressure to provide shelter to residents experiencing homelessness. With finite resources, these elected officials are eager to consider low-cost, innovative, and highly effective solutions. Traditional shelter solutions are expensive and require years to build. Okay. So really the solution is rapid, scalable, and cost-effective. Now, what Kristen had mentioned is that these folks were presenting at a South Bay COG meeting and talking about this. Redondo Beach is the first one. We are actually purchasing these types of shelters here. These ones that look like this, they are small little homes. So we're going to do that. They do have 2 beds in each home. There's some benefits, quick and easy to deploy. We can take these down, as Mr. Webb mentioned. If there are issues, we can shut this down and we'll take these and put these in storage or use them in some other way. But it gives somebody the comfort of having a locked door, being able to sleep somewhere at night that is safe behind our gates. There will be a 24-hour guard there. As mentioned also, there is going to be some security cameras. There's also a 500-yard no camping ordinance around the shelter. This is something that's pretty significant that we voted on as well, is that within 500 yards of the shelter, there is no camping, okay, which means we will not have folks that are experiencing homelessness or unhoused camping anywhere near that. Our navigators are already getting this word out that, hey, you're going to need to either move somewhere else or move into these shelters. And it's been a very good program that's working so far. A couple of shelters in different locations and things like that. Their employment model, they do, their people are bottom line, and we invest in human capital. So they are doing this in a pretty humane way. And then they do train with life skills, personal support, as well as manufacturing training. So they're taking folks that are experiencing homelessness, giving them jobs, building these things and doing that. So it's kind of a self-built thing it's pretty neat. So let's go ahead and let's take a look where the shelter is going to actually be. So there's been a number of questions, and one of the questions says, hey, where we're putting this, there's a whole bunch of trucks and a whole bunch of other things going on. What else is going on, or what's over there? So I'm going to share this with you. So I wonder if everybody can see this here. So this is Kingsdale here. This is the Kingsdale area. And Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, it's this spot right here and actually this half of this area, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what we have here, this is Target right here. We have living spaces. This is that Kingsdale with that little road here. And then it's actually this half right here. Okay. So that's where we are. Now, when you start to look at what 500 yards is, where 500 yards is well on the other side of the graveyard, and we're going up probably all the way to where Grant comes into Kingsdale. So just kind of an FYI, as well as all of this parking lot. It does go into Torrance, and we can't actually enforce that, but we are talking with Torrance to see if they want to enforce the 500 yards from this area right here. Okay. Everybody kind of get an idea where this is? Okay. So now we have a couple of pictures here of, so these are some of the pallets that are coming in. This is actually that same site here. So these were pictures were taken, Kristen, these were taken early last week, is that right?
Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, Thursday. Okay. So these are just as of Thursday. So we're starting to see some of these coming in on different pallets, starting to put them in. What we had to do is to make this safe. We do have an ACA or ADA ramp that's giving access to it. It does have porta potties. It does have all of the kind of sites here. You can see that the pallet shelters haven't been built yet, but they're kind of laying them out. They did actually have to put in electricity, so there's some electricity poles and things that are there as well. You can start to kind of get a feel for what they look like. Okay, they don't look real great on the ground, but when you start to build them, that's what they start to look like. So we're starting to actually see these being built. You can kind of see that. Not a lot of space, but it's something that's their own with a locked door. And again, there's going to be a fence around the whole thing and being able to do that. And let's see here. Starting to see them built, and don't know that we have any that are actually when they have the doors on them. I wasn't able to get over to take a picture there, but the idea is that. Last one I'd like to show you here is kind of the configuration of what the area is going to look like. And I'm going to share this as well. So this is what the area is going to look like. Okay, so kind of what we have here is what we were seeing is that they had them laid out here in this area here. That ramp was right here. They're actually going to have some toilets down here at the bottom with some trash bins and things. This was the kind of the initial piece. Some people ask, what's this cost? This is the estimate that we were presented at City Council. Okay, that's this portion here. And again, what you're seeing here is a total startup cost of $283,000. Mike Webb actually adjusted those. This was very preliminary at the beginning, so just these were cost estimates. Mike gave you some more solid costs. And then what's going to be ongoing? Okay, and we're actually going to have some sanitation, solid waste. And Kristen, I do believe that they are going to be feeding meals there. Is that correct for just the folks that live there? Is that right?
I believe so, yes. And actually, I think that schematic drawing is old. As of last week now, they will also have a full shower unit on site that will come with its own potable water and gray water system. A truck will bring in and take out those waters. So that will be on site. I know there's a question in the chat related to that. So no, they will have, it was going to have just wash stations originally, but we were able, with the help of Janice Hahn's office, to ensure that there's actually going to be a permanent one as opposed to a mobile one that was going to come once a week.
Well, don't use the word permanent.
Permanent, I'm sorry, a one that will be there during the time of the 6 months.
Yeah, for the 7 days a week, because we push back on any sort of permanent water or sewer connection. That's what the county wanted. It's more cost efficient, but we made it clear that this site is not going to be used after 6 months for this. The council was clear on the direction. If they can't find another site that works in the city, then it will be shut down. If you look at our letter of agreement with the county that's on tomorrow night, it makes clear that we could theoretically continue this as more funding is located, but not at this site. And everything is being designed with that in mind. So it's more expensive to have someone come in to replenish the water, to clean out the restrooms, but we didn't want there to be anything permanent. And I saw one question earlier. Most likely the dirt trucks are, there's construction and there will continue to be construction about the transit center. And this isn't a good location for many reasons for a permanent shelter. We used, I mentioned how San Clemente got sued and had to shut down their plan because they didn't comply with the Coastal Act and the CEQA. We used an exemption that is a temporary one during COVID, and hopefully that the health emergency will be gone at the end of June. So that wouldn't work. It's not zoned for a homeless shelter, and we're putting everything in mind. And for the long-term transit center, our public works needs to use that area of the lot for staging for many other purposes. And so this is a 6 month, no matter if it's as successful as I hope it to be, it will not be there after 6 months.
Okay, so let's get to some questions since we have about a half an hour left, and I want to see how many questions we can get to. So what kind of police presence will be there for the 6 months since the lot on Kingsdale borders Torrance? Will there be joint police presence to give those who live in the neighborhood a sense of serious consideration for the residents' safety? We haven't really spoken with Torrance about their police presence. They are very aware of what we're putting in. In fact, it's we've spoken to them on a number of different levels. Our police officers and our navigators are talking with the homeless in the area. As we mentioned, they are going to be enforcing the 500 yards, which is going to help quite a bit. That will do that portion. Also, what you're going to find is that we're looking at this. This isn't somebody where you just drop somebody off and they're going to knock on the door and say, I need a place to sleep tonight. We have navigators that are out engaging folks that are, as we said, residents of Redondo Beach or that are experiencing, are unhoused or experiencing homelessness. And we want to make sure that we're dealing with that. Christian, have you anything else to add on to that?
I'll just make a repeat comment. So as I said, our police department has a specific unit that is dedicated to working with our unhoused residents on top of the regular patrol and other areas of enforcement that the PD does. So no, there's not going to be any less police presence anywhere. It'll be the same, and there will be 24-hour private security at the site, as well as 24-hour wraparound services and individuals working for Harbor Interfaith at the site. So in coordination with our PD, I feel extremely confident that that it will be extremely safe, both for residents and for the residents living in there.
Yep, and I do too as well. Question from Jay: who's connecting utilities to the pallets, and are RB taxpayers paying for the utilities for these pallets?
All the funding is coming through CARES Act and through Los Angeles County CARES Act funding. I believe there is some discretionary funding coming from Supervisor Hahn. So in a roundabout way, yes, this is all taxpayer money because
but it's coming through
the CARES Act is specifically related to the COVID crisis. And so we are using this as it specifically relates to the COVID crisis.
Right. Here's one I can get. Is the city working with labor unions that also have public outreach programs, or is the city simply awarding contracts to low bidders? Now, outreach programs, I think what you're talking about are navigators. We're actually we're connected to Harbor Interfaith. This is one of their functions. We also work with a company called PATH. I don't believe that we're looking with other labor unions and things to build them. They're being built by our Public Works Department. Our internal department is doing this. So we're not using outside help to actually build these and put them in. And also then from an outreach standpoint, those folks aren't really union. Christian, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Public Works is doing it with the team from Pallet. And I should mention the owner and creator of Pallet is a Redondo Beach Union High School graduate. Just find that little part fascinating. But no, everything's being done internally.
Okay. What are the qualifications for receiving housing in the Pallets?
The qualifications right now are established through Harbor Interfaith, who's going to manage the site. Harbor Interfaith also manages our primary outreach navigators. So they will make the determination about which individuals should get in first, right? Ideally, they're going to want to either get in the people from that came out of Project Roomkey, or they're going to get in people that they feel are best suited for them to help get through the transitional program and out to permanent supportive housing faster. So they'll be the ones making those decisions, not us.
Okay. Is there a time limitation on occupancy of the Pallets?
well, 6 months would be the ultimate time limitation, but the idea is not in any situation like this is to have a person only stay there for as long as absolutely necessary, right? You're trying to matriculate them out to a more permanent scenario. So I don't know what Harbor Interfaith would consider to be the ideal time, but we can probably get that information from them. It's going to definitely vary from resident to resident, depending on how much help any one individual needs.
I think in general, they're aiming for a 90-day stay for the people they put in there, and hopefully it's less as we get them housing ready and permanently housed. You know, this was designed to prevent the problem that the community had, the many people that had spoken at council meetings that were concerned that what had happened in Venice, for example, that that people were camping nearby because beds would become available. There isn't that situation. There isn't in any way that incentive, because these are long-term residents of Redondo that experience homeless, may have been lost their bed in Project Room Key, or otherwise working with La Mira, and can benefit from this location.
Great. Thank you. Let's see here. How will the occupancy of the pallets be monitored? What is the maximum occupancy? Oh, sorry, already had that one. Are the police officers on this call? If not, why not? First and foremost, this is mostly to answer a number of the general questions that we have on this. As these go into effect, you know, as Christian had mentioned, these need to be occupied by December 30th. Okay, so we're starting to look towards that. We're going to have some folks hopefully moving in the next week or so. And what I'm planning on doing is holding at least a couple more meetings on this. And I have a feeling that the police officers will actually be on a subsequent call once this goes in. We'll start to kind of monitor some of the activity. I plan to also be at these shelters. I've actually talked to Lila, who's the person who we've been acknowledging as the angel for all of these. Been working with her. I'm going to be going out on an outreach with her to kind of better understand some of the folks that are in our area. But also, as this starts to go, we'll start to monitor this. We will have the police probably on a subsequent call here, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, another question here. Obviously, there are many issues here. For the sake of brevity, my question for tonight is, why is the first District 4 community meeting after the shelter occurring? Okay. So as I mentioned, we've been looking at where to put these, how to put them in, where to go. There have been a number of meetings that we've been having here. Now that we're actually going to be operational, what you're going to find is that there's going to be a lot more discussion here in District 4, since I live 5 streets away. And a number of other folks on this call live 5 streets away, and we're very concerned about how it goes. So this is kind of the operational piece. The other pieces were advised or advertised, and we had a lot of discussion at the City Council. So that's kind of where we are right now. So we're looking at getting engaged, answering questions, and you know, we looked at why wasn't this in South Redondo? Well, we tried to put it in South Redondo. We tried to have this be a year-long project with 6 months in South Redondo, 6 months in North Redondo. Just didn't work out. We looked at the Sea Lab. We looked at the lagoon. We looked at Mole B. We looked at a number of other places, but we're a built-out city, and those areas just didn't work. What we found is that Kingsdale is probably the place that it works the best, and that we had the ability to put this in, make the time commitments that we have. But as Mr. Webb mentioned also, this is 6 months. You know, we're going to shut it down in 6 months, and it's not going to go forward. Okay. Let's see here. Excellent point. Will there be running water, or will they need to use the local stores to clean themselves? I think we answered that. We are going to have actual running showers there. There are wash basins, there are toilets, and all of that. So we hope that these folks are very comfortable. We want to be compassionate, allow them to feel safe and supported there as well. And I think this is a really good place for our navigators to be able to work with them and help get them into some housing here. What kind of plan would they make that allow these residents to use local stores, water to clean themselves? Nope, I just answered that, sorry. Local paper stated that the vote for approval on October 20th for the shelter happened at 1 a.m. in the morning. Why did the vote not occur at the top of the meeting? Seems like the most important issue on the October 20 meeting. When you look at city council meetings, we have a lot of things to talk about, and this actually was about a 5.5, almost 6-hour discussion. There's a lot that goes on. What location is there? How we're going to do funding? A number of folks. There was a lot of debate, a lot of things going on, and what we do is we make commitments to be there throughout that entire organization, that entire piece. Not everybody can stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, but it is something that happens on a kind of a semi-regular basis that our meetings go late. We have a very full agenda. We meet 2 Tuesdays a month, and now we've been meeting actually 3 Tuesdays a month, sometimes 4. And we're trying to get through our city's business, and sometimes things go late, and it's just how it goes. What we actually end up doing is we do have them all recorded. You can put in your questions, you can put in things, but also, and here's the most important part, when you are working with your city council member, you want to reach out, you want to email them, you want to talk to them, text them, and actually ask questions. We're here to actually answer your questions, but also be your voice on those. When we hear from you, we're able to speak up and kind of do that. One of the things that went on was, again, where's this going to be? And again, we tried to have it in other places. We tried to look at other things, and we have to get to a vote. Last but not least, the reason it goes till 1 o'clock in the morning is we had almost 35, almost 40 people wanting to speak on this, and that's a great thing. Okay, so we have comments that get read. We also have people that are on our meetings, and they get their 3 minutes of time. And 3 minutes times 30 people is 90 minutes right there. Okay, and we're starting to look at how that works. So just we want everyone to be engaged, and this is just kind of the start of it. Okay. Can you explain the 60% rule? Don't we have to have 60% of the known homeless count to have beds in order to allow camping enforcement? Will the 15 pallets meet the 60%? We answered that a little earlier. No, this does not meet the 60% rule. And what you're referring to, the 60% rule, is really the Martin versus Boise case that says you have to have beds for essentially the 40%, right?
If I can jump in, 60% rule came from Judge David Carter, who was the judge or assigned to the cases against Orange County in multiple different cities. He's now involved in the LA case. San Clemente was able to successfully get him recused off their case. But as their city attorney told me, that the reason why won't apply to us. And that applies to when you're trying to eliminate homeless encampments. And so fortunately, we don't have that situation now. It's unclear whether or not that would apply to us. We have many things that we can argue, but certainly the cities that have been sued, Judge Carter won't allow them to take enforcement action unless they have 60%. So Bellflower, as an example, they actually volunteered to get sued. And then they created first they did a homeless count and determined their number of homeless individuals was far less than the point in time count that's done every January. And they were able to build a much larger homeless shelter. And then they were able to take enforcement action.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Will the folks housed have access to wraparound services? How do you plan to evaluate the effectiveness of the program? If the program is successful, any plans to extend it? The answer is yes, there are going to be services. We do have navigators that are going to be there. This is a 6-month program. Again, we were kind of talking about the reasons for it and all that. Kristen Horvath, or Kristen and Mike, do you want to also chime in there?
Yeah, this is part of the enhanced response to homelessness, which is a joint effort from my office and the police department, and is being funded, as I mentioned earlier, by the South Bay Cities Council of Governments and being looked closely at many surrounding cities. And they have a number of metrics that they're using. And additionally, we've had now Department of Mental Health is sending additional clinicians, and they'll be evaluating it as well. One of the factors we'll look at is from talking to Lila. Okay, can she be more efficient in getting someone permanent housing ready and permanently housed? So, you'll have a number, you'll be looked at from a number of different metrics and by a number of different outside individuals. And then, the council will decide what they want to do going forward once this pilot program ends as scheduled June 30th, and surrounding cities will be able to look and see, what do they want to copy, what would work well for them, in addition to cities throughout the county that are looking at it.
Great.
Um,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I would just say, I've spent the past 5.5 years working intimately on this issue. So the effectiveness of this particular part of the program, all our programs have been extremely effective. And I'm super grateful for that. And I'm super grateful for City Attorney Webb and our PD. Everybody's really working in partnership, and not only internally at the city, but like I kind of alluded to earlier, with our faith-based community, with our business community. We have really tried to embrace all the different groups out there that can be a part of us moving forward. That includes, the residents. I think it will be effective, as I've said, and if it is successful, the question says, are there plans to extend it? I would love nothing more, especially chairing the regional body, to see this type of program extend, assuming that it is successful and doesn't have any unintended consequences or adverse effects upon the community. The problem is there's no easy way to guarantee that can happen. One of the things I constantly am doing is looking for funding sources that are outside the city. That's how we got the innovation funds for this year. I'll be doing that again for our enhanced response pilot project between now and June. But there's no guarantees here, because it's not only a matter of funding, but it's also a matter of siting. And right now, where it's sited is fine and well for during COVID, but that area is not zoned for this. So there's other complications that enter itself into the equation. But from the perspective of helping to solve our homeless issues, yes, I would like to see the project be able to continue, assuming it is successful in some way.
All right. So
And it depends on how you define project, but the pallet shelters, the question is about that. It won't continue at Kingsdale after June 30th. And, it may continue elsewhere, and it may continue outside the city. There are plenty of possibilities for, once people see it, and if it's as successful as we hope, then and we'll then own the pallet shelters, there are ways to have collaborative approaches. Redondo is very dense, and we don't have control over any land in an industrial area. There are nearby cities that do, and perhaps we can exchange services. And, like I said, tomorrow night, the council will be approving up to 5 beds in Wilmington within our spa area. And that was something that the council asked us to do. We found it. It's a real challenge for a lot of reasons. But now that we've broken through, we'll continue to pursue other beds in areas around SPA 8.
All right, we're going to go into the speed round because we only have about 8 minutes left. Okay, so let's keep our answers short, and I'll see what I can do. Can the no camping ordinance be enforced on the railroad right of way? Do we know who do we call to enforce? The answer is yes. In the 500 yards this area, it can be. And what you're going to want to do is call the police, and they will actually take care of that for you. So go ahead and do so. We'll also have navigators that are out there doing so.
And
residents
you'll
have-
start to see signs put up by Public Works later this month showing the no camping area.
Okay. Sandra Delgado asks, I've noticed a lot of residents are afraid of this project because of the misconceptions of homelessness. Any plans on engaging the community to welcome these new residents to help decrease the fears and increase a sense of community? It's a great question, and we're starting to look at ways to do so. We are going to have some dignitaries probably come and do some tours. I'm sure there will be some videos shown, and this is a big deal in the South Bay and in, I would call it, in Southern California. Not a lot of these going in, so I have a feeling that this is going to be a kind of a high visibility thing. Hopefully that helps. But we're looking at how to make these folks welcome. And again, we're trying to do this with compassion, but also some privacy as well. So just FYI. With a dedicated housing navigator for North Redondo, will Lila work exclusively in South Redondo? And I don't believe that's the case. She does work all of Redondo. She's in North, she's in South, she's all over. She's very much welcoming some help for someone to be just in the North. So I don't believe that that's going to be the case.
And one thing that will help is if you call or email. You can email Joy Abikin, the quality of life prosecutor, who will pass that along to Lila to make certain if you're seeing unhoused individuals, then she'll pass it along to Lila, and she'll be continue to work the whole city.
Yeah, and you can actually talk to your city council members as well. We actually have access to Joy as well as to Lila as well. Sarah Mann asks, for those of us who live outside of the 500-yard no camping zone, will we likely see an increase in unhoused individuals camping in our neighborhoods? Well, first, what you're going to see, you are seeing them now, and they are there. Okay, so we're starting to look at how this works. If you're experiencing folks that are there, they are our neighbors. They're, and we want to make sure that everyone's safe. As Mr. Webb just mentioned, contact your city council member, contact Joy Abikin, or some of the resources that we're going to have, and we'll see if we can reach out to them and get some help. Okay,
and we'll do everything we can to avoid that. I don't anticipate that, but that would be one of the potential adverse effects that may lead the program into being shut down. And that's why it was insistent that the council have the ability to shut it down within, 10 days notice after the 30 days. I would ask that take an objective look around at the situation now before the pallet shelters go up. Many people don't realize how many people are living on the streets right now in Redondo Beach. And many of the individuals want to remain hidden. So take a look, because we need to know, is this, as we anticipate, a positive thing to get people permanently housed faster, or are there negative impacts that the program needs to be shut down? But I would ask that you take an honest and objective look the next few weeks around before this goes into effect.
Yeah, I think Mike brings up a valid point. There are already so many unhoused individuals already here in the community. Many of them we don't see. They really they keep to themselves, and they bed down in places where we can't see. There are some very high visibility ones. And so depending on your neighborhood, you know, you may say the woman who's always in Lilienthal Park, or the gentleman who walks through the Golden Hills on a daily basis. There's individuals I think that we all see and know, but the vast majority of them we actually don't see, or they live in cars.
All right, Mary McCarthy asks, are the cooking utilities at the pallet site? If not, are there plans for feeding the temporary residents? Yes, I believe there are plans to feed them. And Kristen, that is correct, right?
That is correct, and they have they can have hot plates and stuff inside the shelter for themselves if so desired. It has electrical connection.
Okay. Let's see here. Trying to find some quick hits here. So let's see if September 15th was the first meeting of the discussion. According to the presentation, the vote was done on October 20th. 5 weeks is not much time. This did come a little quick at that point, but as Mr. Webb and Christian mentioned, this has been something that we've been dealing with for the last 5 years. The last 2 years we've actually had with the enhanced program, and then homeless court within the last year. So this has been kind of a growing thing. And when we started to look and how we started off with Project Room Key is kind of one of the triggers, if you will, for looking at what can we do to help these folks as they come. That's why it's been pretty rapid to get here from September to where we are today. Mike,
yeah, we don't normally move this fast, but Project Room Key was that the impending end of Project Room Key was one of the things that really led us to move as quickly as humanly possible.
And I don't think the actual final vote was taken until November 10th. Each meeting you kept getting direction to go forward, explore other things. Like the first direction was, can you find grant funding for it? And we found grant funding for all of it. And then, what other locations can we consider? But the final vote was November 10th, and it wouldn't have been November 10th. It was originally scheduled for November 17th, but the federal government changed its guidance on the CARES Act funding. Originally, we were told by the county only you just needed to have the monies allocated, all the contracts signed by December 30th, and eventually it became you need to actually have the first person housed by December 30th. And there wasn't any, if you decided on November 17th, there wasn't the comfort by Public Works, they could get it done by December 30th.
So we're at the bottom of the hour, and I want to thank everybody for here. We didn't get to all of the questions, so what I'm going to do is I am going to save the chat, and what I will do is I will reach out to each person, answer your questions, and I'll get to Kristen and Mike to chime in on some of these. I'll kind of moderate that, but I'll reach out to you over the next couple of weeks. The question really that a number of folks, and if this is successful, are we going to extend beyond that 6 months? As of right now, there are no plans to extend beyond that 6 months for a couple of reasons. First, we don't have funding for that. If funding is found, can we extend? Well, right now, we don't have any plans to do that, and I don't see that right now. Again, we're at the beginning of it, so we need to do that. But I don't see how this goes forward. This is a pilot program that we're going to try. Okay, so that's where we are right now, and my hope is that as this goes in and it becomes a very quiet thing that we don't understand, we don't even realize it's there when it's got its fence around, it's being handled properly and all of that. And I'm not trying to live in a very Pollyanna type of world. This is a serious issue. This is something that we all do. I live 5 blocks away, okay? So do a number of other folks, they live closer and further. These are our neighbors, and we want to be compassionate about taking care of these folks that are unhoused and see if we can help them into these and see if this pilot program works, okay? And that's really the impetus here. I'm going to probably hold another meeting in about 2 or 3 weeks once this actually goes live, so that we can start to say, hey, now we have 5 people in there or 3 people in there, and here's what's happened thus far. So look for those. So what we're going to start to do is start to get information as this becomes executed and is starting to move forward. So for tonight, I want to thank Kristen Horvath, District 3 City Council Member, and City Attorney Mike Webb. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Again, everybody, send in your questions. You can always get me at john.grant@redondo.org. I'm sure you'll be online and we can share information as well, but really want to see this be a success. Take care of our folks, and everyone out there, be safe, happy holidays. And again, let's be compassionate, be kind, and have a happy holiday season. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, all.